to acknowledge the town of Fort Smith is located within Treaty 8 territory. Treaty 8 territory also encompasses the traditional homelands of the Salt River First Nation, the Bededenatsutane Nation, and the indigenous Métis peoples of Fort Smith. These nations have maintained stewardship of the sacred lands throughout the generations, and we honor your knowledge, teachings, traditions, and the land. We're mindful that colonization has not been kind, and we respectfully recognize our generational histories and commit to strive for unity in the spirit of truth and reconciliation. All right, I'll hand it off to Councilor Quebec.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, looking at our agenda, first, for the next item on our agenda, item 2, is adoption of agenda. Councilor Fairchild.
I move that the agenda be adopted as presented with the addition of RCMP under Section 3 delegations.
Second by Mayor Ferguson. All in favor? Or any additional comments? Or all in favor? Passed unanimously. At this point, I would ask our delegations for their comments and presentation.
Perfect. So like I said, I have the monthly mayor meeting report in front of me. We'll try and have it disseminated to everybody shortly after here. I just wanted to bring something just to present and also answer any questions. Just a couple things to note, just for the month of January, Fort Smith RCMP arrested and charged an individual for possession for the purpose of trafficking with a quantity of approximately 10 grams of cocaine on them. So we are still trying and proactively going after people involving with the drug scene here. And in regards to the Mental Health Act at the hospital, there were 2 instances in the month of January where RCMP were required to guard mental health people who have been apprehended under the Mental Health Act in the hospital. So we're still going to be tracking the numbers for that, just for transparency in that regard. So if you guys have any questions that I can try and answer, I know that there were some questions about public safety stuff. I can do my best to try to provide some answers for that.
Did you pass my question on? Yeah, my question was not saying that anything was done wrong, but just for my own information. What is the procedure or the process in place for the RCMP to issue a community warning or warning to the schools when a dangerous criminal is on the loose? Like, what's the threshold, I guess, and then what's the process for communicating that?
100%. So essentially we have some policies, as everyone has policies for things. We have different levels and basically what they're associated to. So for instance, one thing that we have to also be cognizant of is alert fatigue. Is if we keep putting too many out about people who are on warrants, we don't want it to just kind of be brushed off by everybody. So we have to somewhat still be selective for when we present things in that regard. So one thing is obviously we have broadcast for immediate alerts, critical incidents, public alerts, and public safety advisories. So they all have their own definitions. I can try and provide you guys an email of some kind with that, so that way if people come to with questions, this way you have something to kind of refer to, if that would make it easier for you guys going forward.
That would.
Okay. So essentially one of the things here for, let's say, public safety advisors are communications that are essential in promoting safety and communicating critical information to the public through news, broadcast, websites, and social media. So again, we have our social media teams who are going to be having to work with territorial policies as well as RCMP and trying to work together with obviously the news outlets to get information broadcast as wide as we can. There's obviously lots of good news outlets in the community, so they try and work side by side with them. So that's why sometimes it might take us a little bit, because we're still trying to work with other agencies and not just the RCMP posting on Facebook or what have you, right? So that's kind of one of the things. I do have quite a bit of the policy here in front of me, and let me just see, it's a good one here for. So again, severity and urgency. RCMP kind of just looks at the facts of everything and makes an assessment of, is there a public safety and what safety is to the public. depending on what that is depending on our response. So if we think that there's a concern for public safety, then we obviously go to a different threshold there and then act accordingly. So in regards to other instances that we've had recently, we didn't see that there was the threshold to make. I did walk into the school, I did talk to the principal, I think on one or two occasions, just kind of let him know where we were standing at the time. Obviously, if we can be a little more upfront with everything come in the future, that way it's easier for the schools to make decisions in that regard.
But there is a threshold at some point, like if the severity was judged to be of such a high nature, that direct communication would be made to the schools?
So yeah, essentially if there was something that we thought would bring possibly going into the school, right, then that's something we could alert them about for say like a lockdown or something to that effect.
Okay.
So there is that still channel of communication that if we think that there's going to be a safety concern for staff, kids, anything like that, we can still reach out and try and work with them in that regard.
Well, can and will are two different things.
Again, I'm not obviously
Yeah.
on the team for that, but from what I can say is like usually for lockdowns, that's who we talk to is the school. But for my experience here, I haven't had to deal with that at this point, so that's why I can't say 100% of if it would be us or if it would be our media relation essentially.
Thank you.
Mayor Ferguson.
Thanks. With the new legislation that was just passed for the Missing People legislation or Missing Persons Act, we have Frank Rubin, who is that still an active missing person case here in our community? And if these new legislation, does this help with that active investigation? And is there an update about that investigation?
So it's still an ongoing investigation. We still have a member investigating in the community. There's some other plans to continue that investigation on still 100%. I haven't looked too deeply into what actually went through and got passed. But from what I was hearing about the Emergencies Act, that it would allow us to have a little more powers into acting upon things in a more time-sensitive manner. So I'll have another read of the legislation that got passed, and then I'll kind of try and get back to you with my personal side of that. But
Would that, can you also go retroactively? Like, can you go back in time and look at people's social medias? And that's what it's for, right? To access their socials and medias and what they're doing with their phone use. Can you go back and look at the history then of potential whoever was involved in this circumstance?
unfortunately, I haven't read that whole legislation yet, so I'll have to do my homework on that, and I apologize for not having an answer at this time for that. Sorry about that.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. Thank you very much for your presentation.
And then we'll try and get all the documents over to you guys.
Yeah, so just email us the report and those policies that you were talking about?
Yeah, I'll try and have like a little blurb in there, just so if people have questions for you, you can look into that as well and
Yeah,
be
just
able to
like
provide
the
answers.
thresholds, like, okay, you know.
Something easy to
Something easy to
disseminate, 100%.
in English.
Yeah, exactly.
Not polystyrene.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, under item 4, which is approval of minutes. I would have somebody, present a motion for the regular meeting of council, January 20th, 2026. Mayor Ferguson.
I move that the minutes of the regular meeting of January 20th, 2026 be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Seconded. Deputy Mayor Keiser. Is there any comments, questions, corrections? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda, item 5, business arising from minutes. Is there any business arising? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Item 6, declaration of financial interest. None were filed. And nobody's indicating any, so we'll move on. Item 7, administration. First item under that, under A, is Protective Services Director's Report. Salem?
Ask the director to present his report. Yeah, thank you, Councilor Kubek. So feel free to ask questions, but I'll give a quick overview of the report. So for the month of January, we were a little bit below average on fire and ambulance calls, which is good to see because we've had a lot over the last 12 months, but pretty close to our rolling 5-year average. Of note, and I think it was discussed because it happened just the day before the last meeting, but there was a total loss structure fire in Alberta just over the border that we attended. Crews did a great job there. Definitely still busy with 25 calls though for 26 calls, sorry, for the last month ending January 31. Fire training is underway, so training is focusing a bit more this year on scenario-based training because we just went through an NFPA 1001 skills-based training program. So we're just putting those skills to a bit more use on the fire side of things. We just started an emergency medical responder course in-house for new recruits, which would be great to have another 8 EMRs on the ambulance roster. And then we are running a Wounded Warriors trauma resiliency training course, which is playing into that broader mental resiliency and wellness piece for the fire department. So that'll be great to have and kick off that program, which we're already integrating into our SOPs for how we do things as a department. And I think is going to benefit everybody as we deal with difficult calls. We also have a Wildland Urban Interface course that is scheduled for the first weekend of May. It's been confirmed booked, and that will be in line with the Alberta Wildland Urban Interface training program. It'll be delivered by Rodney Schmidt, the ex-fire chief of High Level, who's been training this program for years. So really excited to welcome him to the community and get that going, and hopefully we can fill that course up. Beyond that, a little bit of a reorg in the works as we introduce that new role of Protective Services Coordinator and Deputy Fire Chief. So just looking at how we're allocating our resources in terms of Land and Development Officer versus Bylaw Officer. The Lands and Development Officer has been providing some bylaw enforcement backup, but that job's big enough on its own. So the new Protective Services Coordinator will provide some of that backup to allow our Lands and Development Officer to focus more on that portfolio. And I think that's going to work really well. And I'm working with both of our existing staff on how that will be rolled out. Occupational health and safety stuff is pretty standard update for the month. And then there were a couple of updates through the capital projects just on where we're at. So I'll open the floor for questions if anyone has any.
Because you might ask.
Okay, oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. Great report. I really like seeing that we're gonna get some bylaws, that you're at the draft level. We're gonna get a whole bunch of bylaws here, because I know, I was just speaking to Jim about this, is that we want to get some new updated bylaws coming through. I was reading something on Finland and how the communities in Finland do community emergency preparedness, in the sense that like a whole community-wide event, or a community, or even if it's chunked or broken down, so people, that all groups are prepared for if an event that occurs, that they're, you know, at least prepared for what they're doing or something like that. I'm just wondering if that falls into anything, what you're thinking about doing for planning for emergency response.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. So every year we do reach out to our community partners across all levels of government and the private sector, and we look for what their emergency plans are and how they would impact ours and make sure that they work well together. Certainly we'll be table topping ours internally, and we try and engage other community partners in that process as much as we can. I mean, it's onerous to why we have a local emergency management organization, and we do bring them together in the early spring to have discussions, review our plan against theirs, make sure that any of the partners that need help with their planning, we're providing it. As we move forward specifically with wildfire response, we're looking at an interface response planning, possibly a project where we would get a third party to come in and do the GIS mapping and identify some of our critical infrastructure, although we already have it identified, but better map it and create some interface response planning around Fire Smart as it relates to our vegetation management plan and sprinklering as it relates to actual response to an event. So yeah, we're looking at bolstering our plans with some more operational pieces, and at that point we'll definitely engage partners on that too.
Or Mayor Ferguson.
Just to follow up on the same kind of idea, it's about the fire breaks and managing what the existing fire breaks are and making sure that vegetation doesn't regrow and it stays debris free and all that kind of thing. I was thinking that, you know how everybody hates quads? Let the quads rip up the fire breaks, and so then no vegetation will grow because it, will destroy them. I don't know if there's a way to partner with any kind of groups in town that can go in there and keep vegetation from growing on our fire breaks, or letting it be access so people can use it so that it doesn't regrow vegetation or something like that.
Yeah, that is certainly an approach. I think that folks have responded pretty well to having green spaces, and it's relatively inexpensive as we've already started to have annual mowing, and then we don't have the noise and disruption and erosion and environmental damage of the greenery being ripped up. I mean, I'm not saying no. It's certainly something that if Mayor and Council supports, we can look at, but we do have a management process in place that's been supported by budget to mow it and maintain it. Yeah.
Cool.
On that,
Councillor Tempe.
on that note, I would just like to add that quads have been known to start fires. Not a good idea.
Councillor Fairchild.
Just a couple questions. I'm looking under fire training grounds and it says the lands department is being engaged for an update. What does engaged mean? Does that mean we're still waiting for them to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Karashak. So, I know that was raised at a previous meeting by council, and I definitely understand the frustration. It's challenging to wait this long for responses. It's not for a lack of GNWT Lands Department or ECC engaging with us. They have to go through quite a lengthy process, and right now it's tied up in consultation, and we've responded to some questions that came out of consultation. ECC then needs to bring that back to whichever groups had those questions and get another round of consultation done. So, as much as we see this a priority for public safety, there's still that process that the government has to go through. So, we continue to work with them and hope that it is resolved soon.
Councillor Fairchild.
And my other question was, I was reading with great interest the new fire hall RFP process. I'm just wondering what's the tentative timeline on that? Are we talking 6 months, a year, like ballpark it?
Yep, thank you, Councillor Karashak. So, part of what has been happening in the background is a discussion over the last couple of years about what we should do with this building, as it may affect the construction of a new fire hall. Should we decide that this building is no longer viable and we should consider the addition of a town hall to a fire hall, and whether that makes sense. So, in talking with SAO Hood, we have decided to put out an RFP to have this building assessed for viability, and should it be viable to be renovated and expanded, given whatever our needs assessment is for a town hall. Then further to that RFP, if this is a viable building, provide a Class C or Class B estimate of the renovations and expansion do the needs analysis, look at, what it would cost to demolish the old library, backfill it, expand parking, make sure that the parking, once the library's gone, would meet our needs as well through that needs analysis of the upgraded town hall. And once we have all of those estimates, we can move forward with the fire hall as well. Get estimate of cost with or without a town hall, and then that informs mayor and council whether it makes sense to just renovate, retrofit, and expand this town hall site, or add on to the new fire hall. So we're going through this process. First, we are going to put that RFP out. I should have that document done this week. This is like a priority for me, so I want to get it out next week, and then we'll see what the turnaround is from any successful proponents of the RFP. And as soon as that's done, we would like to move forward with the new fire hall.
So again,
Or design.
I understood what it was saying, just to get that needs assessment back and the RFP and the needs assessment, is that like a 6-month window time frame, or like what kind of time frame are we talking?
I hope less.
Okay.
I'm really hoping for a 3 or 4 month turnaround, but again, it'll depend on availability of contractors and what their timeline is proposed to us. So I won't know until we get that back.
Mayor Ferguson.
Does the needs assessment factor in the operating and maintenance of 2 buildings versus 1? If you're kind of weighing whether or not to put both our town hall and and the fire hall in one, and then, or assess and renovate this one, does that needs assessment weigh the O&M on operating of both those separate buildings or combining those separate buildings?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Ferguson. So right now, the needs analysis is for the space, and then certainly we need to look at, if this was retrofit, what's the projected O&M to maintain this building going forward versus maintaining a building of a similar size. But until we have that needs analysis and even know the viability of this building, it'll be hard to tell. Certainly, we're going to get the mechanical, electrical, insulation envelope of this existing building analyzed, and part of the costing will be improving it so that it's a more efficient building, but we won't know the efficiencies of it and the O&M costs until that's done. But definitely when we're looking at expenses, it'll need to consider that. I don't know that there will be a lot of savings in terms of O&M by attaching it to a fire hall. It'll depend how much we're reducing duplication, if it's just mechanical and how much mechanical. So it'll be interesting and definitely will be a part of that conversation, yeah.
Any further questions, Councillor Cox? Or I think he's frozen.
We might have both, yeah.
Yeah. Checking in on the virtual world. Anything, Councillor Cox?
Actually, yeah, one quick question. Back in the summer, fall maybe, we had a discussion about the burnt structures around town. I was just wondering if there's any updates on that, or are we just having to wait until spring? Or just checking if there's any update.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Cox. So I can confirm that of the 4 burnt structures in town, 3 of them have development permits against them for demolition, and I'm not sure about rebuild, but at least demolition and removal of the debris. And I believe that the last one is just related to some, personal challenges that we're working with the homeowner or the property owner on.
Any further questions for the Protective Services Director? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a briefing note, fire training live structure. I have a motion.
I'll move that council approve a quoted price of 200,000? Or is that supposed to be
Yeah,
20,000?
200,000.
Okay, 200,000 for the purchase and delivery of a dragger flashover structure and associated on-site training and delivery outlined in the attached quote.
Second. Counselor Carrico. Any comments, questions regarding the briefing note included in the package? Counselor Carrico.
So this is part two of what we had approved the previous time, the next part of the facility? Okay.
All right, we'll just-
Yes, so it's on the record.
Okay.
Yes.
Mayor Burns.
Is this still capital projects that we're working on from 2025?
Director.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Yes, it is. It's that capital line that was approved from the 2025 budget. Again, the totals are at the bottom there, but capital budget was $463,000 approved, of which $189,439 was just committed in that first phase. And this is going to leave us with $73,561 of that capital budget line.
Any further questions regarding the briefing note? Deputy Mayor Keiser.
I looked at all of this when I read through it, there's gonna be a level of training required to go with this and ongoing maintenance and training. Do we have that capacity, or is this gonna be an ongoing cost every year that we have to go out or bring people in to train us on how to use our own gear?
Director.
Yeah, thank you. That's a fair question, Deputy Mayor. And so it's built into this purchase price. I think it's outlined here. So yeah, $24,000 worth of training. So we'll get people coming in to train us as we are an NFPA trained department. We have NFPA 1041 fire instructors trained. So once we become trained on something, we actually have the capacity at the level required to provide that training into the future. So we'll be able to do our own in-house training.
It's an investment.
Okay, and Counselor Tucky.
I'm just wondering if there's gonna be any additional costs in terms of insurances, legal advice, and is workman's compensation involved? Are they aware that as a result of training for flash fires, it increases, there's a lot of risk in that kind of training, and there has been deaths in that kind of training. Is it going to affect insurance-wise? And what role will the WSCC play? And although the volunteer fire departments, are they covered by the union? And is the union involved?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Tucky. So they're not unionized employees, but they're covered by WSCC, so we certainly do provide that coverage, and we're insured to have a fire department and to carry out all of the activities of a fire department. As far as WSCC's concerned, we're actually non-compliant with WSCC if we don't provide this training while expecting people to do this work. So it's actually WSCC requirement that we provide this training at this level. Certainly there are inherent risks with training with live fire, which is why we're going to get this professional training and we're going to maintain that training within our department. We will never put firefighters at risk. That's ultimately that falls to me to make sure we don't, and I assure you I won't be. I'm liable at the end of the day, but not doing this training and then sending somebody into a burning building is what would make us liable to any legal action and put us in non-compliance with WSCC.
Okay, and what about insurance?
Yeah, we are insured for all activities of operating a fire department, inclusive of training and live fire training. And we currently have a live fire training prop that we do live fires in and do simulated backdrafts and things of that nature.
And is there a way of perhaps involving other places in the territories? And I would say at a cost, some kind of cost recovery.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Tucky. So we will be the only one in the north with this exact type. Hay River has a multi-story burn structure that they use, and as far as costing, they've been gracious enough to allow us to use it for free for years to maintain our certification. So it's a give and take. We certainly try to help each other, but when possible, we make it cost neutral. So we can definitely consider that. The really interesting and neat thing about this one is it's mobile. It's actually on a trailer. We can take it to communities, and it ended up being cheaper in the end because we don't have capacity to do things like screw piles, and installation was going to be very expensive with a lot of welding if we assembled it on site. So having it on a trailer doesn't require foundation, and we can actually move it to other communities. So certainly something to think about. Inuvic's got one as well, similar but not this one, and Yellowknife also has a multi-story burn structure.
Alright, is there any further questions regarding the briefing note for the fire training live structure? Carl? Yes. Councillor Cox?
Thanks. I guess just a quick question talking about, I noticed that it's on wheels. But I guess considering it needs a fifth wheel and an air brake system, that's probably going to be some kind of specialized vehicle to move it around. But I assume PD or somebody would have, or I guess any of the contractors in town should have some kind of vehicle that can move that around for us.
Director?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Cox. It would just be a standard tractor. And once we have it on site where we want it, I don't foresee us moving it unless we change our training site. We will have it blocked up and permanently installed unless, again, to Councillor Tucky's point, maybe we go and do some training elsewhere. But yeah.
Okay. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Passed unanimously. Okay, moving on to our next item. Item B under administration is corporate services, director's report. SAO.
I'll ask the director to present her report.
Thank you, SAO. So January was a big month in corporate services for administrative activities. We had a lot of things that came up in the course of closing out 2025, ensuring that we had our ducks in a row with regard to all of the financial considerations, especially with the introduction and adoption of the budget, a little bit late as it was. So we were able to satisfy any outstanding claim against the 2023 wildfire activity with the GNWT. We also enjoyed a very brief visit by MACA personnel with regard to the property assessments, and we're working with Daniel, in fact, to do a little bit of enhanced social media outreach to that end. Internally, the ongoing recruitment effort for the SAO is, to my understanding, going well. And we likewise had a successful recruitment effort for the maternity replacement position for our payroll person. That same person, our newest member of the admin team at Town Hall, her name is Isha Rai. She started with us just yesterday. And things so far are going smoothly with her training and her introduction to the team. Beyond that, we have, concurrent to the ongoing revision and development of the bylaw library, we have begun to draft a repeal and replace effort for the records and information management bylaw that exists here right now. It exists mostly as a retention and destruction schedule, and the intention is to align ourselves with the legislation that exists at the territorial level and as well at the federal level, update a few of the line items that are existing in that retention schedule, and include a robust new set of line items for that schedule that speak to digital media. There is a lot that can be captured in the way of metadata, and so the idea is to update that schedule in order to govern the maintenance of all that information, and there will likely be a concurrent small training piece to ensure that all staff who are participating in records and information management activities are aware of how to access metadata and how to interpret it as a part of the information matrix to do with the library of policies and documents and other information that we maintain in the course of business. And then other than that, my department engaged with the Department of Community Services, and we created a little training exercise to make sure that we were on the same page, everybody sharing the same expectations with regard to cash handling activities. That went really well, and we have loose plans to continue that partnership into the future, to engage in more training to make sure that all of our frontline cash handling staff feel confident and are performing in ways that are easily reconcilable and sit within our workflows very nicely.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Keys, if you get a chance to ask questions.
Are you comfortable or able to explain why the assessment people cut theirs short? I met with them just before the last, I got an update, but I don't know if everybody knows why they cut it short.
I'll defer to SAO Hood for that.
Yeah, so the assessors were here, they met with a couple of property owners, and they came to the realization that there was a technical error in the assessment notices that had been sent out in the calculation of the assessments on properties. So once they realized what that error was, they felt that they wanted to get back to the LNA to prepare the correction and to send out new assessment notices. So by the end of the week, we should have the new assessment notices. They'll be going out to any property owners that have improvements on their property that were built before 2024. So those will all go in the mail. It won't affect any vacant properties, and anybody that has vacant property, their assessment notice is still valid, and the appeal period for that is still valid. That was on the original notice. If they have questions, though, there is a phone number on the back of their assessment notices. We encourage them to phone that number, and the assessors will provide them with the same information they could have provided here. And if need be, the assessors will reassess their properties when they come back to town for the border revision.
Mayor Ferguson.
Thanks. So with the 2023 wildfire claim, did we, were we left holding anything in the end of that, or did we get everything that we claimed for the expenses that we put in?
We were able to get everything that we had intended and that we had applied for. We did have a submission that had not yet been satisfied with them as part of the outstanding business. But with our final submission, we were able to satisfy the needs of the previous standing one as well, which concluded all of the outstanding business between us and them for that claim.
Any further questions for the director or the SAO?
The SAO has a report later. We can harass them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, included in our package was a listing for accounts paid list and correspondence. Any questions regarding those two items? Counselor Tucky.
Okay, I have one concern, check 43642 and check 43704 to Lumen Supply Technical Water Treatment Plant. Would you double pay?
Which number?
Check 43642 and 43704.
Director?
So while I am confirming that with my records, I can say that any payments that are sent out from our accounts payable department are all sent in satisfaction of an existing invoice, and that mechanism happens through our financial management software, and in doing so, it would be highly unlikely that we would engage in a double payment. So prior to my confirming in writing, which I can provide to everyone here in a few moments, I can say with confidence that those were individual payments.
They were both for exactly the same amount, that's why it kind of concerned me. And just wondering how
So,
often do boiler inspections happen?
so Lumen Supply, Lumen Supplies, does boiler checks at the water treatment plant. Boiler checks need to be done every day, and records need to be kept of the pressures and things like that on the boiler. So it is a daily check at the plant. They provide that service on a continuous basis, month after month. So it is very likely that the bill would be the same for 2 months in a row. So it is something that is ongoing.
This is for two months?
Sometimes.
Depending on the timing of the original bill that came in, it could be for the December and January billing. But yeah, certainly the, like I said, it is an ongoing bill that happens on a regular basis.
Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda. Item C under administration is a briefing note, appointment of acting mayor, February 25th to March 2nd, 2026. Can I hit them up? Well, we'll have discussion first, I believe.
Skip over correspondence.
It kind of did. You kind of skipped over correspondence a little bit there. I don't know if any, but,
Well, I had them rolled together.
oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Did, well,
We'll regress it. You had a question there?
No, I just like I thought that it's on there, like if anyone had any questions about correspondence, should be asked. I don't, I read them.
I was gonna say when we spoke at the end, but I will say that in the letter that we sent to, this is his response to us, to the letter that I sent to MLA Jay McDonald about our oil sands and tailing ponds and downstream impacts of our Slave River Delta. In his letter, not in the correspondence, it doesn't say so there, but in his letter, he said to follow up with the Honorable Julie Gasperin of the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change of Canada. And so I then took the letter that I had sent to him with the same type of information and forwarded that same letter on. So I moved it up to, which he has as well, but he said it would sound good coming more voice, right? Larger voice. So that's the only thing that I followed up with that one.
Anything further on correspondence? Councillor Benwell.
The letter from Sherry Olson about the ice. She was quite concerned about that ice being not safe for the figure skaters. Not so much, I don't know about the hockey players, but for the figure skaters, she was quite concerned. Any follow-up for that?
SAO?
Thank you. We just received that email at 4 o'clock this afternoon. The director did forward it on to me. We'll be meeting with the facility maintenance crews tomorrow to discuss the condition of the ice and what can be done to improve it and ensure that it is safe. So when we've had that discussion with them, if there's anything to bring forward, we will bring it forward at the next meeting. Follow up.
Deputy Mayor.
One in there that I thought was interesting to read, the application for multi-year research. For information only, it says here, they're going to do this research in our community. What exactly is our role in this, just to be aware? Or do we get a report when it's over? Like what comes out of us seeing this?
Same question.
It is that, for our awareness, so if someone says, hey, what's this person asking me these questions about what's their process? Did they say how they're gonna do their collection of information?
It's a very long letter, yes.
Yeah,
Mail
and
out
so,
somewhere.
just so that if someone said, hey, I had some person come ask me some questions regarding whatever their, yeah, that will say, yeah, they're in the community, on legitimate means doing those kinds of, information.
Is there
collection.
any requirement post-study to let us know what they found, or do we just let it go and move on?
Well, we asked, Spark came, so I don't know if you guys remember when Spark came here and talked to us about the healthy,
Yeah.
or they're taking science initiatives and trying to get kids into the nursing and healthcare development, that kind of thing. They keep sending us in emails and they keep us in the loop. And so you can ask that information from them to say, hey, what happened with all that research in our community? Those ones are more proactive. Spark is more proactive, and just, you can do the same thing with these folks.
Just to note that the college Aurora Research Institute is currently the authoritative body in the NWT for issuing research permits, and they do have a fairly extensive consultation process. So sending these letters out fulfills their consultation requirements. And I believe as the college matures and transforms into a polytech, there has been a lot of discussion that the research permitting process does need to change so that the territories does retain some ownership, or at least gains knowledge from any research done in our jurisdiction. So hopefully as that moves forward, we will see a lot of, I agree with you, probably 50% of the research that's done, we hear nothing back about it. Person writes their thesis, files it, gets their PhD, and we have no benefit from that whole process. So hopefully when they start doing further consultations on the future of the Polytech, that this will be a fairly significant part of the discussion, is how do we benefit from research in the NWT by outside parties in our community. Okay, do we have any further questions regarding correspondence? Okay, seeing them, then we'll try and move on to briefing note. Appointment of acting mayor, February 25th, March 2nd. I would suggest we have a brief discussion before we read the motion with the name in it. Mayor Ferguson.
Who's not going? Councillor Kershak's not going. Councillor Cox isn't going. Councillor Tucky is not going.
Councillor
Bates is not going. So of those four, who's gonna be in town?
Oh, what about Councillor Heath?
I'm not sure if Councillor Heath, my impression was that she was attending,
Okay.
but maybe not.
I'll be here.
You'll be here? Would you
Acting
put,
mayor.
you're gonna be acting mayor then?
Sure. Give me the checkbook.
Oh no, don't give that guy. What was I thinking? Cox?
Uh-oh.
Where did that? Just joking.
I'm not.
I've seen a head shake there, or I've seen this.
Yeah, okay. I'll read that motion with your name.
Yeah,
in it?
I'm fine. I did it once before.
Is there,
Mayor Ferguson.
okay. period of February 25th to March 2nd, 2026, in accordance with the Section 3 of Bylaw 902 Council Procedures.
Seconded, Councillor Tuckey. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
I don't know if I
Abstain?
should vote.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should or shouldn't.
Abstain?
Yeah, sure, I'll
Okay,
abstain.
So we have, 6 in favor, 1 abstention. Motion passed. All right, moving on to the item D, is another briefing note, Wood Buffalo Frolics half-day civic holiday. Councillor Dershak.
I move that council declare Friday, March 6th, 2026, from 12 noon till 5 p.m. Mountain Time as the half-day civic holiday for the Wood Buffalo Frolics in accordance with Bylaw 1004.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Benwell. Thank you. Any comments, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously. Okay, next item, item E, is user group agreement, Slide Zone Shredders Snowboard Club, for information only. So there is no briefing note there. Is there any questions, comments regarding the information included in the package? Mayor Ferguson.
Thank you. So is it just like a part, because there's no financial arrangement with this group to pay rental fees for the club? Is that because they're maintaining the Bellin facility and giving us access as the town of Fort Smith as us? Is that why we're not charging them for the use of it, because they have sole use of one of those portables is all theirs, right? And the washroom facility is then access to the public, so anyone can go use those washroom facilities any time of the day?
Thank you. Yeah, so because they do a lot of the maintenance, grooming it and everything, that is kind of an in-kind relationship. And in terms of washroom use, they have access to washroom use during their timed events. And then public has access as well. When the town is running events there, the remainder of the time is to be locked unless events are going on there. Hence the requirement of them to let us know when they're gonna be there to use it.
What about summertime?
Summertime, it's my understanding those facilities are shut, and sometimes open when the ball diamonds are being used nearby. Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Keiser.
Is it just me, or is there an English misunderstanding here? The purpose of the briefing note is to seek our approval, and the bottom says for information only? How do we, for information only, give approval?
Information only.
Well, no, it's just, it starts off says to seek council approval on the user agreement. When did we approve the user agreement? If we're not doing it now?
SAO?
This is just for information only. That was an error in the briefing note.
Okay.
We're not seeking council's approval.
Thanks.
We're presenting this to council for your information, and so you're aware of the arrangement that we have with the Slide Zone trip.
That would make sense. Thanks, Jim.
Okay, do we have any further questions regarding the, user group agreement document? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Item F under administration, support request, NWT Snowboard Association Territorial Competition. Mayor Ferguson.
I move that council approve the in-kind amount of $1,768.61 for the provision of tables, chairs, sound equipment, 2 recreation support staff, garbage dumpster, temporary road closure, blockage Marine Drive from Mill Street to Wapiti from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. On February 27th and 28th and March 1st in support of the NWT Snowboard Association territorial competition.
Thank you, Mayor. Seconded, Councilor Garsha. I actually have a question. In the motion, we seem to, I know just in previous, circumstances, we've had the road closure as a separate motion. I was just wondering, I like the efficiency of putting it all into one, but, is the intent to include the road closure, as part of this motion?
Yes, the road closure is, there will not be a separate motion brought forward for the road closure. It will be as this motion, and that will give us the authorization to have that road closed during the
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any further questions, comments regarding the, motion for the territorial competition? Seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously. Next item, new item, SAO report. I guess that goes to the SAO.
I'd like to have, oh no, I guess I can't hand this off to anybody else, I guess, so.
No marching band?
No. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I thought I would give you sort of a brief update on what's been happening, what's to come, and give it as a little more formal presentation. So the 2026 budget that Council had passed in January, this was a very collaborative effort, and I want to recognize the efforts of all of the directors who were involved in the process. This was basically a 2-month-long process where, as a group, we spent every Wednesday morning discussing the budget together, justifying why we're asking for more money in certain line items, or identifying where we could reduce in certain areas. And this was a very line-by-line approach that was done. And the directors had to justify it to each other, to us, before we brought this forward. So this was a process that was very detailed, and although council saw glimpses of that, I just want you to be aware that the directors worked very hard and very cooperatively in preparing that budget, and I'd like to thank them for those efforts. So now that the budget is passed, the consolidated rates and fees bylaw is the next thing that needs to be considered. In the bylaw, or in the budget, there were certain items that were identified as needing to be increased in fees. So we will start this week to go through the rates and fees bylaw to identify those areas where fees need to increase, and also to compare last year's actual revenue figures from our rates and fees to ensure that we met what our expectation was. And if there are any areas that we didn't, why we will have to put forward an increase in those fees as well. So we know for one thing that there was an identified need for an increase in ambulance fees. And the other area is in the environmental budget. There was a shortfall there where there will be about a 2.5% increase in the solid waste levy, which amounts to less than $20 a year. But we do need that in order to balance that budget. So we're starting to work on that this week, and we will be bringing forward the consolidated rates and fees bylaw probably the first meeting of March. That's to come. After that, now that we have the adjusted assessment roll, and once the appeal period is through and the Board of Revision has been held, we will be striking the mill rate bylaw at that time. That will likely be in late April, early May. where we will bring that forward, but that will reflect the increases that, were approved in the budget, so. The mill rate, and the levying of taxes may be a few weeks later this year than it was last year. Last year, I think it was May 6th that the notices, or the tax notices went out, because of the errors in the, assessment notices. We may be looking at a 2-week delay, but I think we can still get the, tax notices out, in mid-May, so. We shouldn't, be too hurt, there by that delay. Also, in the next month, we'll be bringing forward a capital budget, for council's consideration. In the past, we have focused a lot of our resources on new projects, and that type of thing. What I'd like to do this year is to focus more on, capital expenditures related to bringing our infrastructure, up to, it's already at an operational standard, but bringing up to, a place where, we're more comfortable with. There are many areas of the, operation that, could use, help in repair and maintenance, where the regular O&M budget, hasn't been sufficient over the years. So, would like to put forward a budget that focuses on, meeting those deficiencies or fixing those deficiencies. And also what I've asked the directors to do is to identify, critical components in each one of their buildings or operations, and identify those within the idea of, stocking replacement components for those critical, parts of their, equipment or that type of thing, so that we're not faced with lengthy delays, reduction in levels of service, closures of facilities and that type of thing. So those will be things that we'll be bringing forward in the capital budget. Water sampling, with the, concerns with lead being found in, drinking water in Yellowknife. Our water plant will be, sampling water in all town facilities. There's never been a time when our treated water, when it's been sampled, has ever contained lead. And that's one of the things that our sampling tests for is, lead and other heavy metals. But we will, be, over the next, month, we will be sampling all the water in all of our facilities to make sure that it is lead-free. And if we do, find any, anomalies, we'll certainly report that back to council, and we'll take action to, deal with those. I've also included there a list of capital projects that we're currently working on, and I know that, the directors have, have mentioned some of these, and in the next, meeting, we'll be able to provide you with more detail on each one of these projects, and, so you're aware of where they are and, how they're progressing. With that, I'll open the floor for questions. Sure.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor.
First off, thank you, Jim. Good summary. Last year you mentioned one of the projects you were doing in town with water meters. It's not on your list here, I don't see it, but I remember saying last year that the guy came to my house to do it, and in the end I had a different size pipe, and he said he'd come back, and he never did. So is that project in the books, or are we still doing that one? Because it's, I know I still have my old meter in my place. Yeah, so I just wondered where that was in your project still.
That wasn't one of the projects that has been, handed over, during the transition from the previous SAO. But, I know that, some meters still need to be replaced. There are still places where the old meters are there and they're not operational. But I'll follow up with our water department and see if that's an ongoing thing. I know that, the contractor who was doing it, ran into some issues as well, but I will follow up with her.
Just wanna be a good corporate citizen, basically. I'm supposed to have it, and I don't, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let him finish typing before we, go ahead. Okay, any further? Counselor Carson?
Not a question, but I'm just looking through this, and as per discussions with the protective services, if we could add an update on the, I don't know, the town hall building assessment, needs assessment to that, because I see the protective services design retrofit, but if we're doing an RFP for, I can't remember the right wording, for the suitability of this building and its lifespan, can we just get an update on that with the rest of them?
Okay, that will fall under the protective services building design.
Okay.
And it'll be recorded there, because that design will depend on the viability and what the decision is to do with this building. If we decide to keep it up and expand it, then, the design of the protective services building can go ahead as strictly protective services building. If we need to combine them, but for now, we'll keep those two projects together until we make a determination of whether they are actually separate projects or one.
Any further questions? Deputy Mayor?
I almost hate to ask this one, but I've heard some people banter about the old federal building becoming a town hall down the road. And I haven't heard any mention of anything like that in the assessment, so is there any truth to that, or is that just people speculating?
I'm not aware of any intention for the town to take over the federal building and move
I think we're gonna rent it.
town hall or, yeah. No, I haven't, been involved in any discussions or anything of that nature as far as that building.
I'll call it speculation then. Thanks.
Any further questions? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, James. Okay, item 8 under the agenda is council business. I don't believe we have any bylaws or policies brought forward. Item B is mayor and council's roundtable, and we'll go in the order that they're listed here. Councilor Benwell.
Yeah, I don't have anything to report.
All right. Councilor Heaton is absent.
Yeah, I don't have much. I was up helping out with the territorial volleyball tournament in Yellowknife, and I just want to give a shout out to the Fort Smith athletes and the Fort Smith coaches who were up there. They did Fort Smith proud. So that's all I want to say.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Just a reminder that the NWTAC AGM is coming up. We got an acting mayor in place, so I will be up there as our representative on that board. And we just spent 2.5 hours yesterday reviewing past resolutions, and spending another hour next week reviewing new resolutions. So we're gearing up and getting ready to go. And the trade show has been so popular that they've had to split it in two. So it's going to be a good year, I think, this year to be at the AGM.
I didn't have too much from last week, but I did attend on Saturday the strategic planning session that was carried out for the museum with their board and their what their plans are for the next 5 years. And I'm not part of the museum, or I'm not part of that, but I was acting on behalf of town of just giving input and being part of TLC. And it was a really great strategic plan. I think they've got a good staff and a good passionate group there running the place. So yeah, that was it.
Pretty quiet couple of weeks here. Kind of actually have nothing to say either.
Okay. Councilor Cox.
Thanks. Yeah, not a whole lot here for board meetings. I just saw online the Fort Smith Animal Shelter has their AGM coming up March 2nd, I believe it was. I think is the new date. So just for anybody interested in supporting the animal shelter, and they're just a reminder, they're trying hard for more support for their board. So anybody interested, should attend. I don't think I'll be in town unfortunately, but, the only other meeting I went to, the, Portsmouth Airport Authority was doing some public meetings on, kind of developing a 20-year plan for the airport. I went as a person, not a counselor, but, I did put in some plugs to, try to support general aviation and support for kind of small aircraft tourism and stuff, things that they can do to try and support that and make it easier to come and go to Fort Smith. So, but, and that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cox. Guess that leaves me. Okay, the only thing I'll be commenting on tonight is one of my, I guess, favorite or regular topics, which involves the NT's PC and their ongoing pillage of NWT residents um, through their rate application process. They put out a ruling from the Public Utility Board, and I have not fully digested it. I talked with our consultant this morning about it. Basically, there is a rate increase. I wasn't able to determine if it was the proposed 15% that the GNWT had suggested they cap it at as part of their $50 million offset that they had provided to the Power Corporation earlier this fall. The one that knocked me off my seat was on the bottom of the application or of the schedule for the Tolson Hydro System is a 10-cent per kilowatt rider. So they're charging an additional 10% rider to recover costs for, wasn't very clear, so I've asked the consultant and he's digging into it, whether it's what the time period for this rider is, exactly what are they recovering, and why. Just because they can't manage projects doesn't mean ratepayers should be paying exorbitant amount. It puts us in the stratosphere for electric costs, probably even more than most Nunavut communities. And we're on a hydro system, so it's absolutely ridiculous if you ask me. And as part of, and I've spoken to a couple of the councillors above this, for the NWTAC, we've missed the initial deadline for the submission of resolutions, but the process does allow us to bring a resolution to the table, and basically our resolution is going to be very blunt and brief, and basically a call for the Auditor General of Canada to do a full comprehensive audit of the NWT Power Corporation and to report back. And that's it for before I get myself into further defamatory accusations. All right, moving on our agenda. We don't have any proclamations. Next item is item 10, date of next council meetings. Regular meeting of council, community and municipal services is scheduled for February 17th, 2026 at 7 p.m. You see, Councillor Benwell will be chairing that. And then the next meeting after that is regular meeting of council, proactive or protective and corporate services, March 3rd, 2026 at 7 p.m. Do we have a volunteer?
I can put my name up for that one.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Okay, excusing of Councillor Sue.
No. I move that Councillor Heaton and Councillor Bay be excused from the regular meeting of council on February 3rd, 2026.
Second. Deputy Mayor, thank you. All in favor? Question period. You do see we have an attendee.
I have one question tonight.
Okay.
I've been researching, I can't see a permit taken out for the new fire center that's going out by the airport. Has one been taken out or has one been issued? A development permit for the town could be quite a windfall. That's $30 million. They should be able to, be quite a development fee that they could collect.
I'm not aware of that, but I will follow up with our Director of Protective Services and he'll get back to you.
Good question.
Sometimes you go by places, you just automatically assume that it's been done.
Did you just hear what Jim said? That was important.
Sorry.
Except the council has agreed to waive all tipping fees or all development permit fees.
Not waive, pay out of half money.
That included all development permit fees, not just residential permit fees. Council may wish to revisit that decision at some point.
Sort of
Why did we do that?
about that.
For half. Because we were getting the money.
Well, that
for half.
can be considered half. That's
Council's-
fire center.
Council's motion was to waive all development permit fees. That included residential, commercial, demolition, home occupation, business licenses. That's all fees. That's the motion
I
that council
questioned
made.
whether it
That
was
was a
just
big
for
mistake.
It can be corrected by any motion. So
Can we make that change?
would you like me to bring a briefing next meeting? Yeah.
Yes.
do you want that as a motion or?
No, I'll just take it as direction.
Greg, did you
Thank
have
you, Greg.
anything?
Any other questions?
Any other stuff? Okay, seeing no further questions from the audience, the next item is Councilor Hairshut.
I move that the meeting be adjourned at 8:18 p.m.
Seconded. Councilor Cuffey. All in favor?